So anyway, to get right to it, what we wanted to talk about today is you and I recently had a conversation about eBPF, which is a subject that you've been doing a lot of work around, preparing for some talks, I think, some presentations and some content, that kind of thing. And one of the one of the areas we haven't really explored a lot with the AI Tools Lab project just yet is using generative AI as a learning tool. I think we all know examples of how we're learning using it, but you have set out to actually specifically learn some things about eBPF. And yeah, I thought we'd just have you on and show us what you figured out and maybe share with others.
Yeah, the honestly the best way that I learn anything is by trying something, seeing if it breaks or if it actually works when I
Mm-hmm.
start. And for those not to know, eBPF extended Berkeley Packet Filter, and it works very closely with the kernel of your operating system or your computer itself, which controls how your computer uses hardware. Just to keep that really super duper short. And that's something that's incredibly fascinating to me is that how I can control like how I access memory or the network or anything at all. It's really cool. And I am guilty of being a little bit of a bully at events. And whenever it's a student that comes up to me and asks me about, hey, I want to break into cybersecurity and I want to know how to do cool stuff and like learn about cybersecurity, I often will ask them if they know about eBPF. And if they say no, the bully part of it comes in where I ask them to pull out their phone and then to look up eBPF, and then yeah, you're good. So with that, covered very briefly what eBPF is, but you think we should jump in more
Yeah,
and maybe get a
let's take a
good
look at something.
good graphic of what this looks like here. Because we both work at Datadog, we have this really cool knowledge center that has straight away what is eBPF. We're defining it here, and of course, that is the extended Berkeley Packet Filter. I really like images like this because it helps us understand just at a glance, like, yeah, this is where we usually live. That's just where our web browsers and our code editors live, right? Application libraries. But when we think about the kernel, that's really how system calls are made, how things interact with down here, the hardware, which is really cool. And it's something that we can dive in deeper with various programs that interact with eBPF. And if you're curious about some of the things that we could do with eBPF and why we, Datadog, and myself are so interested in eBPF, it enables a lot of things around observability. It helps us build products at Datadog, and we use it internally to understand our own networking too. So there's things like universal service monitoring, cloud network monitoring, and the security tool aspect of it, which is probably my favorite piece. And with that, because you mentioned talking about Gen AI and making things happen, and I talked about how I follow the scientific method of fool around and find out as a way of learning. I went to ChatGPT and I asked it to make me a little program to, say, monitor a file on the Linux operating system. And if you're not really familiar with the Linux operating system, there's everything is a file, which is, in my idea, pretty cool. And there's also a file called the shadow file. And with that shadow file, that's ultimately where you can talk about who is a privileged user and can escalate and become an administrator. So, long story short, if someone edits that file and adds people to it without your knowledge, that's bad news bears. And you obviously want to be able to know when that happens. So, my curiosity was piqued. I have never really been a great programmer, I've always been more of an infra guy. And I decided to ask ChatGPT to write something for me that I could just run and just test out. Can I see if somebody changes this file, which is Etsy Shadow, which is where that resides?
Nice.
Yeah.
And would you say that are you able to demonstrate this for us, or would you say that it like got it right out of the gate, or did it have to give you did you have to do some work on it?
So, first off, Yes, I can demonstrate. 2, did it get it right out of the gate? And that answer was nope. It needed some tweaks. I was able to come here with Copilot, and I could probably scroll through here. And of course, I was asking afterwards, what does this code do?
Yeah.
But there was an error that I was getting that was a bytes like object is required, not string. So I asked Copilot why I'm getting this error. So it found it, it helped me resolve it, it gave me the area to fix here that I was able to copy and paste into below here, this initialize BPF. And basically, initially I wrote it to do sudo worst file, and then when I tested it out, that was boring. But so I changed it to shadow and made another couple tweaks. But so was it perfect out of the box? No. Was I able to use another tool, Copilot, with GitHub and VS Studio Code to get it right? 100%.
Yeah.
And
That,
now,
that's
we
similar
can
to
go.
my experience in some projects.
Yeah.
It takes a village of LLMs. I got to go work, talk to a few of them.
And I think it's also, that's real life though.
Yeah.
You're asking a machine to make a best guess of, hey, I'm running Ubuntu. Can you tell me how to do this? It's going to try and gives you its best guess, but some tweaking, revising, and it's still not the perfect utilization use case. It's really good. I'm happy with it. I can tweak it and probably do a lot more with it, but it still worked out.
Okay. Cool. So it sounds like some of the models, at least some of the recent Chat GPT models, are familiar with eBPF and can at least assist in some Python, which I feel is one of the languages that most of them excel in already.
Yes. Yes. And of course, we see that these are some of the tools related to eBPF. And yeah, it does a great job of automatically knowing or being able to tell me what I need. Of course, the BCC tools that are out there were eBPF, and we need to work with the Berkeley Packet Filter itself. Time, that's important. And yeah, it did a great job, in my opinion, even though it wasn't 100% perfect. But then again, you and I both play music. So when you do a first pass on trying to learn something, it's probably not going to be great or
Yeah, and you have to put
yeah.
things into perspective. Like when you say it did a great job, are you saying it created the perfect script? No. What it did, the job that it did,
Yeah.
is that you didn't have to write it.
Correct. I didn't have to go through a lot of different books. I didn't have to go through GitHub. I didn't have to do a lot of searching through Stack Trace or other websites. So
Yeah, which would have taken a lot more time. And it's not unless you can't or even wouldn't
right.
refuse to. It's just like, why?
Yeah. Honestly, in less than an hour, I was able to have something that worked.
Yeah, that's great.
And we
So
could kick it off in a moment if you'd like.
I would love to see it in action.
All right. Are you ready? We
Let's do it.
can do just that. So all we have to do is just tell it to run. And we are going to get a couple warnings and a couple things that are generated there. So now it is doing as it says, monitoring the file. And on my other screen, where I am not going to show you what I'm doing, I'm just going to go ahead and open up that shadow file. And you can already see that I've opened it.
Yeah.
If I go ahead, I'm using Vim, so I'm living dangerously. I can go ahead and write something silly in there, and then write quit. Actually wrote it, and then you see that I wrote it because that is the right attempt of shadow.
Huh.
So we know exactly that something happened. I
That was
wrote it.
immediate.
It was very much right away, and I can close that. Yeah. Straight away, we knew there was an issue. We knew someone, me, wrote to it, and then we could find it right away that someone did that. I know straight away. And it's really this much of what we can do with eBPF. And if you're doing a zoom in, not on me, I was pinching and zooming for a very minuscule amount of stuff that we can do with eBPF. There's obviously quite a lot more.
Yeah.
Other things I've played with have been to look at networking, look at my DNS calls overall that happen throughout my system. And that's been really interesting for when you're running a virtual machine on a cloud provider. You can see like who they're using for apt or apt-get, like where those repositories and where you're pulling files from. You can trace every system call and see who's doing it, how and where, what exact command is someone running. It's actually really neat. There's also some scary things, like some Snoop programs that come in the tools package, where you can do like a TTY Snoop, and I can, if you were logged into the same machine typing away doing your work, I could run TTY Snoop and see exactly everything that you're typing in there.
Hmm.
As
Wow.
it's happening, it's basically mirroring your connection. Very minimal of what eBPF can do, but it's a lot. It's powerful, and I'm really stoked. It was really cool for just a couple prompts to be able to have something that worked like that, so I can test and kick the tires.
So, what's the presentation you're working on is about eBPF, or eBPF is part of that presentation. What's the core message from that talk?
The core message of it is basically I'm really excited about eBPF. I want other people to be excited about eBPF and some of the things it can do. I just want more people to learn about it. Of course, AI is like the big star of the moment, but this is a technology that we can gain so much insight and data about observability. It's really cool to me.
And we can always use the Gen AI tooling out there to educate ourselves on it and to understand more about it. And
To educate ourselves about it and to figure out ways to get hands on in a manner that if you're afraid of doing something because you're not a developer, such as me, I'm not a developer. So, how do I get into there? How do I get to manipulate things and try something that I think is cool?
yeah, cool. Scott, appreciate you making time and sharing that stuff with us. And looking forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Yes,
So,
sir. It was
yeah,
fun.
enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.
Cool. All
See ya.
right.